Oh, good morning, everybody. My name is Jeremy Leffler. I work in the policy office here at NSF. Our office is primarily responsible for putting out all of the proposal and award policies and procedures that you must follow to prepare your proposals and manage your awards. It's exciting stuff. I've been here at NSF for 20 years. The good news is that the policy changes every year, so we always have new things to talk about. So I am going to also, let's see, I do have a couple of coworkers here in the audience. Samantha Hunter works with me in the policy office. She's a senior policy specialist. And Liz DeHart is there. You're going to be hearing from her later this afternoon. So I am here to talk to you about a few things, and I've got a little bit of time and a lot to talk about. So what I'm going to be focusing on are a couple of things. One, what are the newest policies and procedures that were just implemented this year, beginning in January, and then what NSF is proposing to implement in the Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide next year. So I'm going to kind of keep those two things separate, and I won't be talking about all of them, but I'm going to be talking about some of the highlights from both of these documents. And then I've also got some kind of system updates and some upcoming outreach opportunities that you might be interested in, or some of your coworkers as well. But I'm going to start off talking about the NSF Proposal and Award Policies and Procedures Guide. I'm only going to say PAP Guide from now on because that's a mouthful. So 23-1 is the current PAP Guide. And this went into effect January 30th of this year, but there were effectively three effective dates. There was the overall effective date of January 30th, and then we have two other effective dates that are important for you to know about. The first is July 31st, so that's coming up this summer, and that's where we're implementing a change to a certification on responsible and ethical conduct of research. I'll have a little bit more to say about that in a couple of slides. The other big deadline is October 23rd of this year. And this is when it becomes mandatory to use Science CV for the preparation of your biographical sketch and current and pending support documents. So I have plenty more to say about that later on, but just know that beginning October 23rd of this year, you must use Science CV. Science CV is run by the National Institutes of Health, the National Library of Medicine, and we've partnered with them for them to be able to help you build these two senior personnel documents. Okay, so we had, now I'm going to kind of talk about some of the highlights of these changes to the current PAP Guide. So we did fully transition from FastLane to research.gov for proposal preparation and submission. Everything now must be prepared in research.gov. Grants.gov still exists, but the majority of our proposals are coming in through research.gov. We still want your feedback on that system because we're constantly looking to make improvements to it, so we want to get your feedback on that. We added a new type of way in which NSF can solicit proposals, and that's through the use of a broad agency announcement. These are used across other federal agencies, but it's one of the reasons we added this is because it's a way for NSF to be able to reach types of organizations that have not traditionally done business with NSF. So looking at state and local governments, tribal governments, et cetera. So it's just another mechanism for us to use to solicit proposals. I mentioned the deadline of July for the responsible and ethical conduct of responsible and ethical conduct of research certification that goes into effect in July. This does not apply to proposals for conferences, but what it does require is it requires that your organization certify that they have a plan in place to provide training to undergraduates, graduates, postdocs, and other senior personnel that are on your proposal. And that plan must address mentor training and mentorship. So you don't have to provide that plan as part of your proposal, but you're certifying that that you have a plan in place. We also added a new type of submission in the current PAP guide called a concept outline. This is something that kind of existed. There was a requirement for certain types of proposals to get a program officer concurrence to submit a full proposal for planning grants, rapid, eager, and RAISE proposals. And this kind of just formalizes this process. This is not a letter of intent and it's not a preliminary proposal, but it's a way for you to contact the program officer to indicate that you're going to submit either one of these types of proposals or some other, or just another way for you to kind of formally present your idea to a program officer. You will see in program solicitations whether a concept outline is required, or as I mentioned, for those that you see on the screen, those planning, rapid, eager, or RAISE proposals, it is outlined in the PAP guide that a concept outline is required. There are two ways that they can be submitted. One is simply via email, and one is through what is called the prospect system. That is a web form where you can kind of track these submissions to NSF. You have to have a login.gov account to be able to use that. And you'll want to pay attention to the funding opportunity, because that funding opportunity is going to say whether you can use email, whether you can use prospect, or both. We did do a webinar last year to highlight this new process and also do a demo of the prospect system. We also made some changes to the eligibility section of the PAP guide. So we organized it a little differently. So we have these different categories now where organizations that are eligible, and this includes institutions of higher education, nonprofit, non-academic institutions, and tribal governments. We then have organizations that may be eligible, and those could be foreign organizations, other federal agencies, state and local governments. And then we have those that are not eligible to submit proposals to NSF. And this is really referring to unaffiliated individuals. NSF does not make awards to individuals. The only exception to that would be a postdoctoral. If there's a postdoctoral fellowship program, those folks apply as individuals, but we don't consider them unaffiliated. We then also made changes to the eligibility categories within this to talk about for-profit organization eligibility, state and local government eligibility. Tribal government eligibility was a new section within the PAP guide that we talked about. And then again, the unaffiliated individuals that I mentioned. Okay, the next kind of major piece to talk about is this safe and inclusive working environments for off-campus or off-site research. So any proposal that proposes to conduct research off-campus or off-site, the authorized organizational representative for your organization has to certify that your organization has a plan in place for that proposal regarding a safe and inclusive working environment. NSF defines a safe and inclusive off-campus or off-site research as data, information, samples being collected off-campus or off-site. And you don't submit that plan as part of your proposal. That there is a checkbox on the cover sheet that you need to check to let NSF know that there is off-campus or off-campus or off-site research planned. But it is not submitted as part of the proposal. There are, however, I'm skipping to the last bullet on this slide here, there are a handful of solicitations in both the bio and geo directorates that are piloting through their program solicitations a requirement to include a safe and inclusive working environment plan as part of that proposal. Again, that will be very explicitly stated in the funding opportunity itself. So that plan that you have has to describe how the types of behaviors will be addressed that you see on the screen. It should identify steps that your organization will take to nurture an inclusive off-campus or off-site working environment, and should also consider the communication that happens between the team and from the team to and from the organization. So we did start getting, as we implemented this, a lot of questions, and we've incorporated those as frequently asked questions into our proposal and award policy FAQs, but I wanted to highlight a few of them here. One of them being, how does NSF define off-campus or off-site research? And we leave that up to the proposing organizations to establish what constitutes off-site or off-campus research, and then it needs to be applied consistently across the organization's portfolio of NSF awards. Proposals and awards. How do collaborative proposals comply with this requirement? So you've got more than one organization working together to perform the research. We want one consolidated plan. So you have to work together with that other organization to have that plan in place. And then must you have that plan in place prior to proposal submission? The answer to that is yes. The AOR from your organizations is certifying to the fact that that plan is in place at the time of proposal submission for that individual proposal. So let me move on to some other changes that were part of this 23-1 PAP guide. We made some revisions to the grant opportunities for academic liaison with industry or GOLI requirements. This allowed some small businesses to be able to be involved in a GOLI, where prior to this, they could not. There are also eligibility requirements for that small business to be a part of a GOLI proposal. There are certain limitations on how much of their budget can be a part of the total proposed award amount. We've included a new section on research security at NSF and talked about some new requirements for disclosures, post-award disclosure requirements. I'm going to touch on those in a moment. And then while we have a new section on scientific integrity that's not new at NSF, but we've kind of moved a lot. We've kind of moved all of the information about scientific integrity into one location within the PAP guide. There are these new check boxes also on the cover sheet. Actually, the potential life sciences for dual use research of concern is not new. It was renamed. And then there is as I mentioned, a checkbox on the cover sheet for off-campus or off-site research. So let me talk a little bit about the revisions to the biographical sketch and current and pending support. These were made in the 23-1 PAP guide, and this is a result of a government-wide effort to harmonize a lot of these similar requirements from research agencies to reduce administrative burden for you all. And so that effort is taking place at the direction of the NSTC, and NSF is co-chairing that working group. There will be additional changes that go into effect in the 24-1 version of the PAP guide. And those forms, the biosketch and current and pending support, the additional changes were in the Federal Register for public comment. Those are being resolved, and additional changes will be made in the 24-1 section. One of the things that is required in 23-1, which is new, is that you, as a potential PI, are certifying to the fact that the information you're providing in your biographical sketch and current and pending support is accurate, current, and complete. And you are doing that whether you are using Science CV to create one of those documents, or if you're using one of the available PDF forms that NSF has on its website currently. This is what that certification looks like in Science CV. That certification happens upon download of the document that from Science CV that you then attach to your research.gov proposal. The certification is printed on the form. Also, there is a time and date stamp for when it was certified. And on the fillable formats that are on the NSF website right now, there is a space for you to type your name as a signature and type the date when that happened. Again, October 23rd of this year is when you will be required to use Science CV for both the biographical sketch and current and pending support. I think I have that on a slide. Yes, I do. Okay, so let me talk a bit about the disclosures and when you're disclosing information to NSF. So you are providing, when you submit your proposal to NSF, your biographical sketch, your current and pending support, and your collaborators and other affiliations information, obviously. The new step in this is that if your proposal is being considered for an award, you will get an email from your program officer. It's an automated email saying that we need an updated current and pending support document with a new timestamp and a signature and timestamp. This is done through Science. This will be done through Science CV. Can still be done currently through a regular PDF document. But we want to know, okay, you submitted your proposal 6 months ago. Has anything changed? And you're letting NSF know that we can't make an award until we've received that updated current and pending support document from the senior personnel that are on that proposal. What if there are no changes? We still need to get a new current and pending support document with an updated timestamp. Okay, so that is a new process. Post-award, if you discover that something was not included in current and pending that should have been, there is a process for letting NSF know that through a notification and request where you're telling us that something was not included. If there is additional active other support that has happened from the time you received your award to the time you are submitting your first annual report, we want to know what that is at the time of your report submission. The reason is because we want to make sure that you still have the capacity to do the work that you propose to do. So that's what NSF is looking at. Okay, so we also had a number of questions come in about this process. So I've included a few FAQs here. Again, I touched on this. What do I do if there have been no changes? You still need to include that information for NSF with a new time, recertify that information with a new date. A project that was listed as pending has since been awarded. Do we need to notify NSF that this project has been funded? Again, I mentioned that that's done through the reporting process, either in your annual report or your final annual report. Last question, FAQ that we get, if the individual is not requesting salary on the budget, does the proposal still need to be included in current and pending support? And the answer is we want, the current and pending support is used to determine the capacity of the individual to do the work as proposed. So if there is effort being done on that project, it needs to be included in current and pending. Okay, so that is all of 23-1 that's currently out there now and required. What I'm going to talk about now is what is being proposed by NSF. Now, this draft document is currently in the Federal Register for public comment. We have a 60-day public comment period that goes through June 12th of this year. We receive your comments up to this period. We then resolve the comments and determine if we need to make any changes to the proposed changes that we're making. So get your comments in now. I'm going to cover at a very high level, some of the things that that NSF is proposing changes that we make. A lot of them, Amanda talked about the budgetary requirements for the CHIPS and Science Act. These are proposal and award related requirements of CHIPS and Science that are being incorporated into policy through the PAP guide for 24-1. Again, these are proposed. So there are some definitions for what a malign foreign talent recruitment program is, what are countries of concern, and definitions for an institution of higher education. We also state that parties to a malign foreign talent recruitment program from a country of concern are considered ineligible to serve as senior personnel. Those countries of concern right now are China, North Korea, and Iran, or anything else that the Department of State determines is a country of concern. Those are the three current ones. There is a new annual reporting requirement that will require PIs and co-PIs to certify that the statements in the annual reports are true and complete, and also that there is support for graduate students and postdocs who are receiving substantial support that they are getting career development and professional development. There are new certifications for both the organization and senior personnel, both related to malign foreign talent recruitment programs that you're certifying that you are not a party to one of those. There will be some changes, proposed changes to our mentoring plan requirements. So currently, if you have a postdoc on the budget, there is a requirement to include a mentoring plan as part of your proposal, and the system checks for that mentoring plan if you've got postdoc money on the budget. That is being expanded to include graduate students. So if you've got graduate students and or postdocs, that mentoring plan will be required. Some additional changes to the biographical sketch and synergistic activities. Synergistic activities is part of the biographical sketch. We are proposing to remove the page limitation for the biographical sketch. It's currently 3 pages. And we are also proposing to pull out the synergistic activities section of the bio sketch and have that as a separate senior personnel document. There will be some changes to current and pending support, kind of in concert with the federal-wide harmonization of these documents. We are proposing to add 2 new proposal types to the PAP guide. So that is the Research in Undergraduate Institutions program, the RUI, and Research Opportunity Awards for predominantly undergraduate institutions. Those programs exist currently as solicitations. What we're proposing to do is to standardize the requirements for those programs in the PAP guide and lay out all of the requirements in the PAP guide for those. There's a new category for return without review related to research security that we believe will probably be a rare use of return without review. And then we are making some additional clarifications for that. If you add off-campus or off-site research post-award, what are your requirements in terms of the safe and inclusive plan? Okay, that's it for the PAP guide updates. So my office, in addition to putting out the PAP guide every year and reviewing and clearing all of the program solicitations that get out on the street and dear colleague letters that you see run through our office. We're also responsible for a large NSF-wide outreach program called the NSF Grants Conference. Prior to the pandemic, it was an in-person conference. We held it around the country. It is now a virtual offering. There's no cost to attend. It will be June 5th to 8th. Registration is open now. You can sign up for individual sessions from proposal preparation, the merit review process, award management, and then we have representatives from all of the NSF directorates come and talk about the specific funding opportunities in their areas. All of that information is available on our policyoutreach.com website, so encourage you to go look at past presentations that are there. I have some resources here for you, the current PAP guide, the draft PAP guide, and a bunch of other stuff related to current and pending support. And I've done enough talking, so happy to take any questions that you have. Anything online? Yes.
Thank you so much. It's really helpful to hear. I'm just curious about the process, and I realize that there are regulatory requirements to add in more criteria and reporting items. Is there any sort of thought to what is this doing to the overall load in terms of compliance that we have to do in universities and as researchers and as administrators?
Certainly. So if you didn't hear the question, so the question was, is there thought put to all of these requirements, additional reporting requirements, additional proposal requirements, and how that affects workload pretty much for PIs, administrators, faculty? Clearly, we are looking at helping to reduce administrative burden. We hope we certainly take all of that into effect when NSF is making calculations in terms of putting in new requirements. A lot of the new requirements, I should say, are not always based at NSF. They're based in legislation. Not really regulation, but in legislation. The CHIPS and Science Act, for example, imposed a lot of extra requirements, and we always look to see how we can do it in the most efficient way possible. What I would say also is that if you have strong opinions about certain items, please let us know through this comment process, because that's the best way to be heard in making changes or considering any of these changes.
Hi there. So with the change in telecommuting with the pandemic and going forward, how has NSF adapted their roles to account for example, researchers working remotely? And an example in particular is an American working for an American university, but they're working from outside the United States. Thank you.
So I don't know that NSF that's going to be where you're looking for your policy for that. That's going to be at your institution, right? That's going to be something, that your institution, you're going to have to follow your institutional policies on something like that. Okay.
There's nothing in the chat, Jeremy. Any other questions?
Thank you very much.